Yeah, 50 years later and the Buffalo Springfield still have it right. Something sure is happening here, and what it is ain't exactly clear. And Retake Our Democracy in this radio show, in our blog, in our alert system, and on our Zoominars tries to shed light on what's happening and make it easier for you to be involved. Hi, I'm Paul Gibson. I'm the host of Retake Our Democracy. Today, I'm the co-host of Retake Our Democracy, and
Roxanne Barber, co-founder and today co-host of the Retake Our Democracy radio show.
So good morning. You're listening to Retake Our Democracy. It's a 30-minute weekly radio show that appears on KSFR 101.1 FM, your public radio station, and it also streams live from ksfr.org. So if you're out of town and whatever, you can still listen to this, and you can listen to Richard Wolff before us. So you get a double dose of socialist perspective. Today, we're doing a solo show or a joint show with Roxanne and I.
A duet show.
A duet show. And we're going to be talking about our legislative strategy for 2021, Retake's legislative strategy, and our 2021 platform of 15 transformational bills. They're not really bills yet. They're concepts, they're issue items, but they're in the process of being formulated into bills that will be introduced beginning January 4th. But as you will hear with our strategy this year, we're really planning to dig in early with our advocacy well before bills are introduced. And Roxanne's going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit. Last week, I interviewed the new executive director for the New Mexico Environmental Law Center, Vahinia Necochea, and longtime staff attorney, Eric Jantz. And it was a really interesting interview. It was my first opportunity to get to know these two. And it's not just that they're environmental lawyers, it's that they get it in their soul. And they really understand the intersection of environmental justice and racial justice. And they center their work on that nexus. And the interview was a very powerful one. And I strongly recommend, if you didn't hear it, you can get it at retakeourdemocracy.org. All you have to do is go to the actions and events place menu and hover there, and you'll see Retake Conversations, and you'll be able to catch that conversation. The week prior, I interviewed Miguel Acosta. He's a Retake Our Democracy board member. He's the co-director of Earth Care in Yucca, and he's also one of those folks that just gets it and is so articulate about describing the nexus between racial justice and so many other forms of justice, including environmental justice. So you can watch all of our past shows by going to retakeourdemocracy.org and hovering over the actions and events menu. And again, going to Retake Conversations. And if you're cruising around in your car today and only pick up some of the show and you want to hear the rest of the bills we're going to be talking about, you can go there, and it's usually the interviews are usually posted by very early Saturday. So thank you for that. Roxanne, you want to talk a little bit about
what we're going to talk about today? Okay. Yeah, well, speaking of our website, retakeourdemocracy.org, we published, about 10 days, maybe almost 2 weeks ago, our 2021 legislative strategy for the 2021 session coming up. And we have chosen so far 15 bills. They're not bills yet because they can't get introduced until early January. But what we consider our top priorities, they're transformational bills. And then we have another 25 that we're just calling priority. It's a sort of second tier of bills that we plan to do some advocacy for, but we're going to focus mostly on those 15 transformational bills. So if you go to the website, you will just go to 2021 legislation, and you'll find those there. And we're going to be we're trying to be more proactive for the coming session this year and start communicating with our legislators in advance Because, we've noticed that often if you wait to talk to your legislator, email, phone, however, or in person at a legislative hearing, which isn't going to happen this year, it seems like they've already made up their mind on a lot of these issues. So we thought it would be a good idea for us to be contacting all of us around the state, all the advocates, contacting their legislators in advance to tell them how you would like them to vote, what issues you support, what issues are important to you. So, and I want to tell you, we have our next Zoominar is this coming Tuesday, December 1st, 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we're going to be talking with Speaker of the House, Brian Egolf, and Senator Peter Wirth. So we're going to talk about the election results and the expectations from the Democratic Party leadership about what bills they expect to advance. We're also going to talk about the bills that Retake has on our list that we really want to see passed. So go to our website, again, retakeourdemocracy.org, go to Zoominars.
Hover over the actions and events menu.
Actions and events menu.
I'm so used to saying this, I can do it in my sleep. And you'll see Zoominar series, but also just above that, you'll see the one for December 1st.
And you do need to register for this. So please go there and register, and we'll see you on Tuesday evening.
Yeah. So what do you say we talk about a little bit of legislation, Roxanne? Can you tell them a little bit about like how we pick these bills and our criteria?
Right. Yeah. Well, we have a similar criteria for the bills we choose to focus on and advocate for every year. And first, we try to look at issues or bills that could have a potentially game-changing impact in our state and meet a very broad and pressing need. We also look at whether it would address the needs of significantly underserved populations or communities in our state. Then we look at what difference can we make? Could a little bit of extra advocacy from Retake folks and people across the state really push this over the line and get this bill voted into law? Also,
so in that respect, there's some bills that might be just obviously going to pass, and they don't need our help. And right. So we may not put that much energy into them. Doesn't mean we don't support them.
Right. And the other side of that coin, bills that we've heard from people who know, legislators and allies, that, okay, this is probably going to introduce, but it's not going to go anywhere this year. We will have to wait till next year. So we probably won't put a lot of energy into trying to get bills like that passed. We also we have a lot of allies across the state, ally organizations. We talk to them. We ask them, what are their highest priorities?
So, yeah, I think it's important people realize it's not as if Roxanne and I sit here and just go, well, what do we support this year? I spend much of my day, Monday through Friday, on the phone with allies across the state who are in the process of actually forming the language behind the bills that we wind up supporting, working with the legislators who are sponsoring the bills that we're supporting. And so it's from them that we take our cues.
And when you say allies, tell people, what do you mean? Like, give them some examples.
I'll give you New Mexico Voices for Children, certainly one of our great allies. You could talk about New Mexico Environmental Law Center. We have 3 of their bills on our priority list. Common Cause is certainly one of our allies. We talk to people like Stephanie Garcia Richard from the Land Office, New Mexico Law Center on Law and Poverty. These are people who are in the trenches at all times, working with the constituents whose bills we are hoping they will lift up. And so it'd be presumptuous of us to think that we know better than they. And so our job is basically to take their message and get it to you.
Yeah, and beyond the criteria that we've already talked about, this year we're prioritizing bills that we really think will address the needs of our low-income working families in New Mexico. Also the needs of tribal and rural New Mexico, and bills that address climate change, of course, something that once we get through this COVID crisis, I mean, over the longer run, it's going to have an even bigger impact on us.
Yeah. So maybe we can start talking about the bills. We had a little summary written out there, but that's going to be redundant now. And you've got the first one, abortion decriminalization.
Right. So we really feel like this is going to get pushed through this year, that maybe it doesn't need a lot of our advocacy, but it is so important that this bill passed this year. So it's actually at the top of our list. And I don't know how much we need to say about it. I think a lot of our listeners know that there's a statute in New Mexico from back in 1969 that makes it a 4th-degree felony for a physician and for the mother, I believe, to perform an abortion.
A pregnant woman.
Well, okay. Yeah. When you're pregnant, you're kind of already a mom. And because of the situation in our U.S. Supreme Court, we wouldn't be surprised if Roe v. Wade gets overturned. I mean, we certainly hope not, but it could be in the next year. So we really need to protect New Mexico women's right to choose, and we need to repeal this outdated legislation in our state. That's a high priority.
And as many of you know, Retake has been deeply immersed in election strategy, working with more allies, Working Families Party, Indivisibles, Nasty Women, Taos United, and so forth. And in the last 4 years, we've first of all, we retook the Roundhouse, the state house, which had been in Republican hands in 2015. So in 2016, we flipped that. 2018, we created just this enormous wave of young, mostly women of color legislators to the House. But in 2018, there were no Senate elections. In 2020, there were. And as a result of the work, again, of our allies and us, we have 7 new senators and Democratic senators. They're far more progressive than the people who preceded them. And because of that, that's why Roxanne's saying we're really confident this is going to fly. I mean, it's a big reason. The votes of Democrats are the reason this bill didn't pass in 2019. And it's the reason those Democrats are not coming back in 2021.
And I think you said this, Paul, but just to make it clear, when we say we're not talking about just Retake. I mean, there were hundreds, thousands of people across the state who worked to make those changes in our legislature. And we were just one part of those people.
So the next bill on our list is the Health Security Act. And Mary Feldblum, the Director of Health Security for New Mexicans, deserves to have her picture on in the dictionary next to tenacity. She's been introducing this bill, and her organization's been introducing the bill, I think going back to 1980 something.
30 years.
Yeah, almost 30 years,
yeah.
Almost 30 years. And each year it has been blocked. And again, what I said just a minute ago about changing the chemistry and the calculus of the Senate is going to make a big difference, we hope, this year. We think this is the year. There have been 3 studies done of the Health Security Act over the past 25 years. One of them just completed this past year. All of them show that implementation of the Health Security Act would save New Mexicans an enormous amount of money. Millions and millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, it would provide virtually universal health care for every New Mexican. The only people who would not be covered by this are people covered by other plans that they keep.
Like military,
Native American, who are in the Indian health system, and some federal employees who have federal. And the quality of this care package is guaranteed to meet or exceed all of those plans. And so no one is going to be who steps into the Health Security Act would be stepping down from a better coverage to this coverage. Mm-hmm. And there will certainly be a whole lot of negative publicity about this bill coming from the insurance industry. And thankfully, Clemente Sanchez isn't going to be in the Senate to do their dirty work for them. We're going to get this time.
Yeah, this is groundbreaking. We'd be the first state to pass this kind of legislation. Wow, New Mexico, #1.
That's something good.
So we're also going to be pushing for a public bank, public state bank. This legislation is going to be sponsored, introduced by Senator Jeff Steinborn this year. It authorizes a public bank where we can put the state money. This is not going to be a bank where you can do your banking and have a checking account. This is the state's money, which now goes to the big Wall Street banks like Wells Fargo, millions and millions of dollars, and
billions of dollars.
And they invest it in God knows what, but it's not being invested in our state. So this, if we have a public bank in New Mexico, it will invest our public funds and keep them circulating in the state, keep them working in the state. And it does not undermine community banks, credit unions, anything like that. The public bank would work with those existing banks, and money that currently goes into debt service for bonds with out-of-state banks would stay in New Mexico, and we can reinvest it. So yeah, at least $50 million in deposits from Wells Fargo accounts in the first year. I mean, we're talking about millions, billions of dollars, as Paul said, and we can reinvest in our state and keep our money here where it belongs.
And here's another instance of where there will be a lot of disinformation from the banking industry. They have no interest in seeing a state do this. And right now there's only one state that has this in the country, and that's North Dakota, and they've had it for decades, a century. And they don't need another state to step forward and show that this is an effective means of doing public banking. So again, Mexico has an opportunity not to be first this time, but to be second.
It could be second.
The next bill on our list is local choice energy, and this was introduced in 2019 and got eclipsed by all the to-do about the Energy Transition Act. And we'll talk a little bit about that later because we're planning to amend it. This bill will be introduced by Senator Benny Shendo and Senator Jeff Steinborn. And basically what it would do is it would enable a city, a county, a tribe or a pueblo to organize and either purchase their energy 100% renewable, if that's what they chose, off the grid and bypass P&M or the public utility, the privately owned utility, the monopoly utility that steals from us utility, and allow them to purchase their own energy and sell it to their constituents, and or to to create their own and to float a bond, maybe financed by the public bank, and put up their own grid and storage, and they'd still wind up using P&M's transmission lines or El Paso Electric, but they would be not paying them for the energy itself, and they would have their own energy future. And so, for example, if they did float a bond and created their own energy, once that bond was paid off, that energy would then be essentially free. And so this is a bill we strongly support, and want to thank New Energy Economy for being such an aggressive advocate on behalf of this bill.
Okay, yeah, number 5 on the list is the Green Amendment. And this is different from the Green New Deal. This is advanced by the Green Amendment for the Generations, that's the organization. And this basically asks voters to approve a state constitutional amendment that would give all of us in New Mexico a constitutional right, seems like this should be a given, a constitutional right to clean air, clean water, and clean land. Air, water, land. I mean, it's there. It's part of nature. Why do we have to make a special amendment to get that? We all deserve it. So these rights to clean air, water, and land would be inalienable and inherent and reserved to all the people. So, and on par with our other protected inalienable rights. It's about time. This is something we really need to do.
And again, with this bill, one of the things that I'd like to note is that with all 4 of these bills, 5 of these bills so far, none of them will cost taxpayers or the budget any money. There's no money So you want to talk a little bit about the early childhood fund, because that's about to change. It will cost money.
Yeah, this is one that will cost money, but this is something that they've tried to pass for, gosh, I don't know how many years now. It usually
15
gets
years.
killed in Senate Finance, which had been chaired by Senator John Arthur Smith, but he's gone now. Well, the Democrat didn't win in that district. We have a Republican there now, but that's okay. You know, because he was just holding up too many great bills. And the Permanent Fund for Early Childhood Education is one of those. And that would simply add another would increase 1% of the distribution from the permanent fund, which is now, what is it, like $17 billion?
Yes, it's actually gone up during the recession.
I mean, what are we saving it for, people? Of course, we're not going to use it all, but let's use some and do something for young children in this state. It's a 1% increase. The current distribution is 5%. It takes it up to 6%. That's a pretty conservative amount.
Okay. I want to remind our listeners that you're listening to KSFR, retakeourdemocracy.org. I mean, Retake Our Democracy on the radio. And you're listening to Roxanne Barber, my wife and partner, and co-founder of Retake Our Democracy, and myself, Paul Gibson, the host of Retake Our Democracy. And I always like to remind our listeners, this is Thanksgiving weekend. Maybe you can show some thanks to KSFR. Go to ksfr.org, click on the donate button and send them 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 bucks. And look at it as your ticket to admission to a lot of great programming. So I'm up next on the bills, and I'm going to talk about two because they're sort of related. One is a great revenue boost to the state, and that's the comprehensive tax reform package of bills. I'm not going to talk about it in any detail, except to say that over the last 3 administrations, the state has passed some horrendous tax bills that created all kinds of loopholes for businesses and the wealthy. And it's amazing that our state income tax jumps. The first bracket is up to $17,000, and then the next bracket is up to $200,000. There's nothing in between. And the people who are making $1 million don't pay any more than the people at $17,000 until they pass $200,000. They're still paying at the same rate as the lowest income people in New Mexico. We have the most regressive tax system in the United States. And we have Representative Javier Martinez and Senator Jerry Ortiz-Pino who are advancing these bills. And it's going to be a package of bills that will be formulated much closer to the actual date of the Roundhouse session. And then another piece, this is also a bill from New Mexico Voices for Children, as is the next bill, expanding the working families tax credit. It's ironic that we have Ronald Reagan to thank for this kind of a concept. He was the introducer of the earned income tax credit, and it has been proven by numerous studies to be one of the most effective means of lifting people out of poverty. They use the funds that they get from the tax credit, but what study after study has shown is 2 or 3 years after they've done that, that they've been able to increase their income enough that they no longer qualify. In other words, they've boosted themselves out of poverty. And so that's a bill we strongly support.
Okay. We're also looking at, on our top 15 transformational bills, oil and gas bonding increase. So this is coming from the state land office. Well, that's where it originates. We don't have the language on this yet, but it would significantly increase the amount of capital a fracking operator must provide as a bond to pay for cleanup. I think, what is it now? It's like 25,000 or something. It's
even like some of them bundle multiple operations, hundreds of them into one bond. And basically we're at the current rate, we are about $2 billion undercovered by those bonds.
And with the oil and gas industry on its way out, they're going to be walking away and leaving that mess and all that pollution for us, the state of New Mexico and the taxpayers in New Mexico to clean up. So this is really important. They need to pay for their own cleanup.
So the next bill is a Water Governance Reform Act from Representative Melanie Stansberry, and I've been speaking with her. We did an interview with her about a month and a half ago on the radio. And basically, the laws and regulations that the state employs to regulate water, and not just use of water and quality of water, dates in 1912, over 100 years old, hasn't been updated, impossible to manage. This would be a big fix for that. And so I'm not going to go into a lot of great detail, but one of the principles of the whole bill is restorative justice and restoring rights of indigenous populations to their own resources.
So number 11 on our list is paid sick leave. And this bill would provide workers statewide with guaranteed paid sick leave. And so we haven't seen any bill language yet. We don't know number of days or what kinds of protections they might be building in for smaller workplaces.
But if COVID has taught us anything, sick leave's important.
Well, and just all of these small workplaces and our essential workers,
right.
Many of them get no sick leave. Ugh, it's terrible. And also, again, this year, small loan interest cap rate reduction. It's now capped. It used to be 175%, which is outrageous. I'm sorry. It used to be 1,000%. It wasn't even regulated. The small interest loans, these storefront loans that mostly prey on low-income folks who need money and need it quickly. The cap was reduced some years ago to 175%. Would you take out a loan for 175%? Only if you were totally desperate. So this, get it down to 36%. I mean, that's still a huge amount of interest. Come on, we can do this.
Okay. We're going to be, we've got about 2 minutes left in the show, so we're going to try and rush through the last 3 of these. But we'll take a pause and come back and talk a little bit about our strategy after
for the podcast.
In fact, no, let's talk about the strategy now, because I think it's important for you to hear it. Okay. What we're doing, and it's catching fire. We have district coordinators for the Senate in 20 of the 27 democratically controlled Senate districts. And basically our philosophy is that in prior years, all of our bills have sailed through the House and then got killed in the Senate. Now we've changed the composition of the Senate, but now we've got to watch the Senate. We've got to make sure that those bills pass. And so we've organized our advocates into teams for each Senate district. And we've got, like I said, we've got coordinators, I believe, for 20 right now. And many people who have just signed up to be on the team. And we're going to be scheduling Zooms with those legislators during December before, as Roxanne said, they often get to the roundhouse and they've made up their mind. We want to talk to them before the lobbyists get to.
We're going to be scheduling, meaning those constituents in those districts will be scheduling calls with their senators to talk about the issues.
The coordinator will call the senators. We've got all their phone numbers. They'll talk to them. We'll say, look, we've got X number of constituents in your district who want to talk to you about some bills. Please, let's do this conversation now. And so
if you're interested.
Yeah, if you're interested, go to, please write to Retake Our Democracy at retakeresponse@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's email us.
Yeah, that's to email us at retakeresponse@gmail.com. And we are completely out of time for today. We don't have a crystal ball. This is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and I got turkey on my mind and stuffing on my mind.
But they'll be hearing this on Saturday.
Yeah,
you'll be hearing this on Saturday.
Hope you had a good holiday, and we'll be back next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Stay safe, stay healthy, stay hopeful, and stay active. It's the only way we fix this mess.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And we're back by podcast. We had just finished off talking about our transformation. Well, we didn't finish with our transformational bills, but we switched gears and talked a bit about, because we wanted the radio show to contain
The live
our
show.
strategy. Yeah, the live show. And now we're back to finish up with the bills that we hadn't gotten to. And the first one is the Energy Transition Act.
Amendment.
The amendment, yes. And this is a bill that's going to cause a lot of fury among some people. And basically, the original bill
It passed in 19.
Passed in 19 and was ballyhooed as, you know, like this magnificent bill that was going to put New Mexico on the map. We're going to have the highest RPS rate, renewable portfolio standard in the country, or almost the highest, the best. We're going to close San Juan coal plant. We're going to get workers relief and the city up there relief because they're going to be losing revenue.
And a lot of that is true.
And a lot of that was true, but the economics of the situation were that San Juan was going to close. The economics of the situation now, especially with renewables becoming much more affordable than any kind of fossil fuels, was that we were going to be able to achieve renewable portfolio standard in excess of what's in the bill. And besides, the bill has no teeth to enforce whether that happens or not. But what it did do was foist the full cost of the what's called stranded assets from P&M. In other words, the plant itself that then has no value and yet they've invested in it. All of that was foisted on ratepayers. Not only that, the bill language allowed P&M to just claim whatever the price tag they thought was right as the bill there for ratepayers. And Roxanne and I have sat in a whole lot of PRC hearings, and the PRC has never approved 100% of what P&M asked for, because P&M has a habit of being disingenuous with the numbers and being kind of greedy. But the PRC was handcuffed, had to approve this amount, and did so, and acknowledged in their brief that this was not their decision. They would not have approved this amount, but they had no choice. Now, what's really wrong, but that cow is outside the barn. And what's really bad about this bill now is that it also covers P&M from their stranded assets at Paso Robles, not Paso Robles, Four Corners, but also at the plant, the nuclear plant, and it's in Arizona. And I'm sorry, I just spaced on the name. Verde, yes. Palo Verde.
Palo Verde.
Yeah, not Palo. All right. So in any case, it's almost Thanksgiving, and that's the Energy Transition Act amendment. And what they're going to do is they're going to close those loopholes. They're going to make it so that those other assets are not covered by the original Environmental Energy Transition Act, but it's not going to impact any of the good things that were passed in the Energy Transition Act.
Keep all the good and get rid of some of the bad.
Sounds like an automatic.
What's wrong with that?
The environmental grasstop organizations like the Sierra Club are going to be like digging their heels.
It's just making it a better bill.
Yes.
Making it a more fair, equitable bill.
Don't get me started.
Bill. I know. Okay. Wow. Okay. Next one. Surprise, marijuana legalization. No surprise there. We really feel like this is more than likely to pass this year because we have a new makeup in the Senate. It's passed in the House before, hasn't it? Right. So, you know, I think they've done a number of surveys. 70% of New Mexicans think that recreational marijuana should be legal. I mean, my gosh, it's even legal. It's just legalized in Arizona. Come on, we're more progressive than they are. So that's number 14 on the list. It's
also a social justice issue because the vast majority of people who go to jail for marijuana offenses are people of color. People like me, if I get caught, it's a slap on the wrist.
Right.
Well, although I don't know that.
So part of the bill, we hope, would be that people who are in jail for marijuana offenses would be released. And
their records expunged.
As long as there was no violent crime or anything surrounding it. But hey, marijuana and violent crime, I don't think so. Those do not go hand in hand.
All right. So the last of our 15 transformational bills is the Food and Ag Omnibus Bill. And this is sponsored again by Representative Melanie Stansbury and another one of our favorite legislators, Joanne Ferrari. Discussions are already underway as to what the bill will finalize on, but basically it's to improve local food systems and create resilient, more resilient agriculture, strengthening food and water relief and recovery, addressing some of the root causes of food insecurity, and strengthening the local food chain so that we get more of those farm to table kinds of initiatives going. In other words, it's a very good bill to be supported. And so that's the last of our permanent bills. Roxanne, are you going to talk about some of the?
Well, yeah, we have our second tier list that we think are important, but you know, we only have so much bandwidth and so much energy we can put into advocacy. We are going to provide brief descriptions of these bills when they get introduced, and we'll let people know. And so if you're an advocate, you have a place to go to get some talking points and to contact your legislator to tell them how you want them to vote on these. Yes, we hope. So let's just, and there are 20 something of them. So I don't think we
can really do that. I think
them.
if you go to retakeourdemocracy.org and hover over the legislature,
2021 legislation.
Well, you got to hover over legislation and in the menu bar, and then look down and you'll see 2021 legislative bills.
Right. So if you've been listening to this and there's a bill that you care about that you didn't hear us talk about, please go there first, check that list. It could be on the second tier list. And also, you know, feel free to email us at retakeresponse@gmail.com. That's retakeresponse@gmail.com. If you check the list, there's something you think is really important, you'd like to make a case for us to include it, we'd be happy to read that and to listen to that.
And just to close with a bit more about the strategy that we're employing, if you're at all interested in being part of one of those Zoom conversations with your state senator, or better, that if you would like to coordinate or help a coordinator, we are getting very close to having all of our districts covered. And in fact, 2 or 3 of the districts that we don't have covered are Democrats who probably don't care what we think. People like George Munoz and Pete Campos. So, but we do have some more districts that we do want to have covered, especially in the southern part of the state. So sign up by writing to retakeresponse@gmail.com and let us know what district you're in, and let us know who your senator is, and let us know whether you want to be a coordinator or just a member, and we'll get back to you. And we will be having a Zoom discussion a week from yesterday, the Friday after what is, I don't know.
They're listening to this on Saturday morning.
I know, that's the next Friday is the best way to put it. Yeah, we're Saturday.
So it's December 4th?
December 4th. Thank you. Oh, way to do the math. That's from 3:30 to 5, and that will be a standing meeting for people who are interested in this strategy. We'll be talking, you know, advancing the strategy, finding out where we're weak, where we're strong, and starting to initiate the conversations with our legislators.
You got to email us if you want to be part of that. We'll send you a link to that meeting. Retakeresponse@gmail.com.
And we're out of steam, and I almost smell turkey in the air because it's Wednesday night.
No, it's Saturday morning. It's still in the air.
So yeah, it would be. Yeah. So we hope you had a tranquil Thanksgiving, and want to send out our hope that you stay safe, stay healthy, and stay hopeful. And of course, stay active, because we need you and our planet needs you. So
thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.